Yeah, so here we are again. This time today, we're gonna talk about that little kidnapping that happened with some supposed Black Lives Matter supporters, even though, as far as I can tell, no evidence connecting them to Black Lives
What do you
Matter at
mean
all.
supposed? They were never connected at all. They were
Exactly.
just.
Well, people are implying it, and I'm like, it's supposed, but they're not at all. They're not connected at all. But I mean, I'm like I said, I mainly want to talk about just with you guys about just the well, like we established earlier, the fact that I think, and I'm certain you guys think the same, is that this was just a direct outpouring of the hyper divisiveness of the rhetoric that was used on both sides in this last election. And I mean, Elliot, get us started off. Like, where do we start with this?
I don't know where the fuck to start. This whole election has been the most divisive in all of U.S. history. Like, if I was gonna name an election more divisive, I would. No, I can't name an election more divisive than this one because there hasn't been one. It's been like, how do I put this? We're too busy attacking each other and not worrying about big problems. Right? It aggravates me to no end because it's arguments over meaningless bullshit, and it's just like it's time to stop. You're
Yeah,
not going anywhere with this. You're not being productive. You're
yeah.
just dividing a wedge between people.
Well, there's a reason I put Soros's face up on this thing is because like I mean I'm we don't need to necessarily pick on just him, but if that's the thing is a lot of these movements, like we said before the podcast, they start from a good place where they start with we need to talk about in this case disproportionate crime happening in the black community and the fact that black people seem to are getting shot at a higher rate per capita than white people. And we need to talk about this, have an open and honest discussion. But the problem is, pretty soon you have people like maybe Soros, but even just the normal mainstream media and other people out there who have the worst of intentions jump into this movement, which starts with good intentions, and immediately co-opt it into something that it was never meant to be.
Hijack it, 9/11 it,
Yeah,
just
James,
work for
watch your noise.
Okay, one second. I'm almost done. Bye bye.
Well, hurry up. Food later. Talk now.
Like, can you jangle shit any louder? Jesus.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but like, careful.
Don't do it on podcasts.
That's gonna be a nightmare to edit later.
Anyways.
It's gonna be a nightmare to edit later. But yeah, so no, I'll go to you, James, real quick. Like, for instance, like, what do you think of these social movements? And like, do you think that they legitimately start from a good place and then are co-opted, or does some of them not start from a good place and then just get worse? Like, what do you think? Like, we'll take Black Lives Matter. Like, where do you think it started, and then what happened at least in the beginning that took it off course?
I'm gonna say just consistent outrage at the kind of the how would I say this? All of the highly publicized shootings of black teenagers by white, well, not even white all the time, but just like police officers, and just kind of it's like that divisiveness just being like much stronger. It's very publicized. People just are pissed off. They want to try and change something. Though, it's like things kind of change. Certain people use it as a justification to do crazy things that they honestly probably would have done anyways. Like normal people don't like kidnap people. Normal people don't murder each other. That kind of stuff. It's just like that. It's a lot of the crazier people that do it. I mean, it's not like I'm not saying anything about like the social manipulation or anything like that. But I'm talking about like all the really heinous stuff done, like either supposedly by their members or in their name or whatever. It's like just that you have to be, there's gotta be something not right about you to do anything that insane. I mean, sure, when they interrupted Sanders' speech and all that stuff, which I think is hilarious and kind of dumb, but I mean, I don't know, it's just those, I would assume the normal Black Lives Matter supporter wouldn't go as far as to shooting a police officer or anything as crazy as that.
Right. See, it's funny because they try. I don't really know how to really describe them. It's like they want to be like Malcolm X, but they're not being as don't really know how to describe it, as cohesive and as productive as Malcolm X
Or
was.
even coherent. That's another thing too. You sit down with one of them and they'll issue demands, but you'll say, okay, where's your basis for at least some of these demands? And some of them maybe, but like I've read some of the official demands and I'm like, okay, there's not necessarily any systemic racism. There's people who are assholes, but the system itself, like there's no laws on the books anymore that will actually promote racism. Like
here's where I disagree with you, because of states' rights and the issue of states' rights. Technically, not on a federal level, but from a town to town, we're talking in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Alabama. Right?
Deep South sister fucking Alabama.
Exactly. I would be willing to bet you that doesn't hold true. It's not illegal. I'm sorry, it's not legal. But I'm willing to bet that probably does exist, because I mean, what are they gonna do in the middle of bumfuck Alabama? The federal government's not gonna intervene.
Well, no, and also, I mean, but the thing is, no one ever really leaves the town, so it's a breeding ground for that kind of stuff. And I mean, I can get that, but I'm talking like on a federal level. At least you would agree with me.
Yes, on a federal level.
Yeah. When you break it down small enough, I will definitely concede there that it's more than likely there are still some places where we have some retarded people hanging around, but for the most part, I would say there's not really any systemic federal government and even state government. I can't think of a single state that has anything like that on a state level. Anything even close to resembling like actual racism. But the thing is they keep calling for this systemic racism, and the first thing they always name is cops shooting black people. But then the thing is well, that is something we need to talk about. Why can't we talk about the fact that black people shoot each other more than anything else, and that kind of stuff? Why can't we talk about gang violence? Why can't we talk about the fact that rap, like some of the cultural issues? Just like, I mean, white people aren't exempt for this either. We've got some big problems that
no one is exempt. Remember, because there's no such thing as an exemption, right?
No,
there's no such thing as being innocent, right? That's false. That's a false way of thinking.
Exactly.
Because the thing is, this problem could be solved, but the truth is, do the powers that be really want it to be solved?
And is it easy to solve? And it's not easy to solve.
Actually, it's quite easy. However, it takes money. It takes money and time
and effort.
They don't want to spend it. It's very straightforward. Like, for instance, Chicago. I read some news articles on the gang violence in Chicago. You just crack down. You send in the National Guard if you have to. See this? I don't want to go off on a tangent about like the merits of martial law as necessary, but we'll come to that. It's a crackdown.
You're saying a massive crackdown.
Yes. Right.
Well, I also think they should also maybe not be so super restrictive on gun rights. I mean, the thing is, Chicago's the heaviest gun-free zone in the whole of the United States. It's so hard to own a gun in the Chicago area.
But they're everywhere.
Exactly, they're just everywhere illegally.
Walk 2 steps in the dark, you'll trip over an AK-47 in Chicago.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're all owned by the cops and the gangs, and no citizen has one. And while I'm not saying give everyone guns, at least give the citizens a chance.
Could go wrong.
I mean, I still think you should at least give the citizens a chance to defend themselves. That's a whole separate issue. But going back to the root of the matter, I mean, like I said, white people have cultural issues as well. But
every group of people has cultural issues. Like,
but the reason I mentioned this, I'll just finish my thought real quick. The reason I mentioned this is because when we were talking to Moderelli, I was talking about how I thought modern atheism really kind of like took a huge detour when it got hijacked by social justice and feminism, and I kept saying when you're an atheist, you can't be. I've started saying this in some ways. If you're a skeptic, you have to be a skeptic of everything. Nothing can be exempt. You can't selectively be skeptical about things and question certain things. You got to question everything. You gotta look at all sides, look at all points of view, and not leave anything out, and then find the one that looks the best. Which is, it's the biggest problem with particularly lefties and right wing people can have this problem too. But particularly the left right now, when they look at Black Lives Matter, they don't want to criticize it. All they want to do is call out, white people for racism and crap. But they never want to turn around and look at, you like look at the fact, like I said, all this gang violence and all the culture of, money and hoes and wanting to be football players and rappers and stuff that's not very tenable. They don't want,
Right.
so they don't want to look at that.
I believe it's very pertinent to the movie I watched today about Hidden Figures, right? It's about a bunch of, the setup and all the progress that went into putting a man in orbit, right? Well, it features a bunch of African American women who basically did the job of computing, which this was like it's as the transition to computers actually came out, so they had to hold the job.
I heard about this movie. I was doing a little bit of reading on it. Sounds like it was pretty good.
It is a very interesting and very good movie. It doesn't really touch on it's kind of awkward at times when it does touch on kind of like the social stigma of that, right? The whole, racial segregation thing. But it's on kind of a somewhat unrelated note. It's kind of awkward because Sheldon's supposed to be kind of like Sheldon's the most racist. The guy. He's the guy. I don't remember his name. It was Paul Stafford, but it's the guy who plays Sheldon. So it's like, it's Sheldon. Sheldon's supposed to be the racist one, but it's awkward because of his character. So it doesn't really make it that bad. He just makes it kind of derpy, and you're just like, okay, I guess it's the farthest he goes is he puts a colored sticker on the coffee pot. But that's another story for another day. But that's the thing is, back on topic, as it relates to education, is there's a multi-step process to doing this. But the thing is, people have to be willing to work together for this, right?
And especially to listen.
Right. See, I'm of the opinion that just cops in general, just replace them all. Get a new system. Replace them with the military, right? I can't believe I'm saying that. But, what are we going to do? What are we gonna do? So you know what? The only thing we can do is we flip the table and we start over again.
It's just been my opinion that I think the escalate. My personal opinion with the cops, the biggest thing you can do to change them is change the escalation of force.
They don't care about that. That's funny because they don't care about that. There was an article I read on. I was on Reddit, right, looking through news and stuff, and it was like. This was about a different cop killing. This wasn't anything. It wasn't that high profile. It was, I don't remember the name, but one guy links escalation of force training. Turns out most cops they think it's a joke, and it's like escalation of force training's necessary for a reason. It's not because it's a joke. And the thing is,
it's because it'll keep you from shooting the wrong guy.
Yeah, they treat it as a joke. Right, because of basically bare bottom requirements to being a cop. Any inbred motherfucker can be a cop. It's just like there's no requirements that are like you have to have two functioning neurons to rub together to be a law enforcement officer. It's very easy to do, so you attract some colorful people.
Yeah,
and then
I would be completely of the opinion, like you said, if you want to replace them, with the military. I would say, you don't just like fire all the cops and then, call in the National Guard. And what you do is you take the cops and you retrain them, but you train them in a very militaristic fashion. You say, look, here's what you're gonna do. We're gonna drill it into your heads. We'll turn you into, a pseudo, like a pseudo army almost. What the hell is?
Well, it's that. Well, then you have people complaining about the militarization of the police force. See, you truly are in a no-win situation. It's a no-win. And that's the thing is, I guess it also stems a lot of the problem comes from mismanagement, right? Citywide mismanagement. See, if you give all these African American students schools, give all the black kids schools,
and good schools too.
Good schools, like the good students, the ones that realize that they're trapped in hell, realize education's a way to get out of hell, right? You can get out.
Yeah, like for instance, like the charter school. Like, do you like the idea of a charter school system?
No, because you should just be able to. Public schools should just be able to be good. They shouldn't have to be this weird kind of binary system. Like public schools in general shouldn't be shit enough to warrant public. Like charter schools shouldn't exist simply because of obsolescence, right? That's why I don't like the idea. Is they shouldn't have to be needed.
Yeah.
They should,
Well, one
like,
thing you can
Well,
do is you could
sad.
is in the immediate in a wide area around like big cities, you could actually eliminate I'd say eliminate non-religious private schools, because that would force the rich to send their kids to public school if they're not of the religion that they are, something like that. Or you could eliminate private schools
yeah,
altogether.
exactly. Now,
It would basically force rich people to send their kids to public school, and then when they see what that does to them, they're gonna be like, oh fuck, we
there's
gotta.
3 letters to like. It's funny because I was reading up on some on how to truly make what makes a good country. 3 things: education, infrastructure, and then research. Those 3 things are what make good countries, right? So you have to invest in those 3 things in order to advance, to progress, right? Otherwise, you'll stagnate.
But
And so you
then yeah, but then
talking
you
out of it, saying, "I'm going to make America great again. I'm going to bring all these jobs back." I'm like, you're ignoring the 3. You're ignoring those 3 things. You're ignoring EIR. Those things are what, like, if you look back at the '60s, when the whole emphasis on education took off, when people want, like, the whole, I want, like, what do you want to be, little Billy? I want to be an astronaut. Well, that's the thing, right? Is education and infrastructure and research, because we wanted to beat the Russians. So that stagnated after we went to the moon. It
exactly.
stagnated.
Well, that's a whole nother subject. I mean, we'll touch on it briefly, but like, you're right to say that. I do think we need to put a brand new emphasis on education, in not just not just black communities, but all communities, because uneducated people don't really contribute to society very well. I mean, they
No,
can,
it's they
but
contribute through the ability of menial labor, unskilled menial labor. That's the best they can do. But guess what? You're being replaced by a robot. So you better find something out fast,
yeah,
because you're not going to be really be worth that much, right?
yeah.
Which brings us to another topic: affordability of college. Return those government subsidies. Quit this government loan bullshit, right? Get rid of that so people can actually afford to go to college. So people can actually afford to get an education.
Yeah.
Like, because it does you no good if you, like, I read an Onion article of a coyote that walked across a campus in western Idaho, came out with $30,000 in debt, and we're like, holy shit. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't like coyote stuff.
It's a satire that speaks the truth.
Yep, coyote wanders through campus, comes out 30,000 in debt, and you're like, I laughed and then cried a little bit because it was very true,
Yeah.
and I'm like, God damn it! Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to come out that far in debt. What's the purpose of that?
There
Like,
is none.
it's just because in economics class we did some calculations of college in the '70s and then adjusted for today's rates, and then college now, right? And it was like, in today's rates it would have been 15,000 total, right? Well,
Keep in mind, you can still get that if you go to like a big school like UW or something. Like,
not really. No,
ye-
you can, but
yes,
not really.
Yes,
You have to.
the rates were like the cost was to go to University of Washington
It was
actually
a
a
flat
little bit
cost. No
less
scholarships.
as Bellarmine.
It was a flat, like, in economics, it was a flat cost of the University of Illinois with no scholarships, no grants. So literally the flat, like, out of pocket, right? Adjusted for today's rates, it would have taken, yeah, it was like, it ended up being like 10,000. No, it was like 50,000. And then if you look at it today, it was like 30,000. It's just like, the price doubled for virtually no reason other than profit. There's no other point.
Profit, and one of the other problems is they keep having to hire new administrators for new stuff, like all their diversity clubs and all the
No,
such
that's
like
not
crap.
even that. That's peanuts. That's pocket change. What? It's the fact that government subsidies ended and the loan program took off, right? Because of that fucking soul sucking trap of loans, of government loans that you can get loans easily as a college student. Well, you can't forgive them except under some very specific circumstances, and they're extremely easy to get. So it's a trap. They pay super high interest, and then as a result, the government cut the subsidies to the colleges. The colleges are like, yeah, we can just raise the prices of this. we can easily raise it, and because it's a loan, that you just get dicked.
Yeah, you get
Loans
fucked.
are never beneficial. There is never a reason to use loans.
You get royally fucked.
Oily, on interest alone.
Yeah, but to back up a sec though, like what do you so like for instance, we'll actually probably talk about something similar to this later in terms of everybody. But so Elliot, what do you what do you think are some like very big cultural issues? Because I named a couple that I see, but you know.
Of
The
African
the SJWs, you know, we'll see. We only listen to the black man. Well, we have one here. So, so what do you think? So, what do you think are some of the cultural issues in the African American community that you see?
that I see,
Yeah.
the fact they follow the wrong role models, right? This is going to be the one major one. So they follow the wrong role models. They follow the rappers. They follow the stars, right? Because that's, to be fair, that's what's readily available, right? Although, there's not enough people following Black Science, man. They're like, I want to be the next Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, you don't see that, because the thing is, right? What's one thing you notice about rappers and about professional athletes? They're self-aggrandizing, right? They are, to these kids that have nothing. They're larger than life, right? Money, women, cars, everything. They have everything. These kids have nothing. So what do they strive to be? They strive to have everything, right? It's basic avarice. Well, it turns out that there's nothing, you can't really do much with that. And especially when you fall out of the spotlight. If you fall out of the spotlight, then people stop caring about you, and then you stop getting all that money.
Yep.
So there is a lack of role models. There is no emphasis on education, at least from as in the Black communities. There's very little emphasis on education. This is a multitude of reasons. One of the main reasons is the fact that Black communities are heavily religious as a whole, extremely religious.
Yeah. No one ever talks about that. No one ever talks about the fact that, you know,
they're heavily religious and they're community oriented.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you have a heavily religious community, that by in and of itself, like, squeezes out education. Just anywhere in the world, if they're religious, they're less likely to be educated. Now, see, that's why the Jesuits were very unique, and they're like, we're religious, but we place huge emphasis on education. But for the most part, if they're religious, they don't like education, because education teaches free thought, and free thought is extremely dangerous.
Because free thought is the enemy of dogma.
So horribly dangerous, and as a result.
Yeah, well, that also plays into a lot of the social dogmas. Like, for instance, I'll just throw this out there. To add to your your speech, I guess. Do you think that there is a very big problem with the fact that does it look like the Democrats are trying to keep the Black community down so they can keep votes in many places?
Now, this is a very interesting subject.
Because
it's not any one party. It's not the Democrats. It's not the Republicans. It's both of them, because you have to realize who are these people supposed to represent, right? This is why I loathe democracy, is because it's majority rule. And the thing is, you have people that either don't care. See, I'm not going to say like actively oppressed, because that's not really so true anymore. It's more so neglect than oppression. Like, that's one reason I disagree with the SJW. It's not oppression. It's just neglect, which is vastly different. But it's just that who really wants to throw a bunch of money at Black schools? Like, as a wealthy white senator, who wants to do that? Who the fuck wants? Like, there's no social capital to be gained by that. You don't gain any support by doing that, right?
Yeah.
So there's no incentive to do it.
Well, the same thing there is, I mean, if you keep it also goes for the free thought, and I won't tie this down to any particular party. I'll try not to. But my feeling is that, I mean, if you keep them poor, if you keep them uneducated in places like Chicago and in the South Side and like Harlem, and
we have a very interesting thought. I'm about to continue with. So
Yeah.
keep telling.
So if you keep them in, Compton, Harlem, South Side Chicago, all these places, if you keep them poor and uneducated, but you tell them that, hey, we're gonna give you stuff, we're gonna keep life good, we're gonna fix it, and you get their votes. Well, what's incentive is there to actually do anything? Because if you do anything and they become educated and maybe have some money, they might consider voting for another person next time because maybe they don't need your message anymore.
Precisely, but that also takes us into a new subject, and the subject of American slavery in the 21st century. Now, there's a very interesting clause about the 13th Amendment, right, which bars slavery and indentured servitude except as a punishment for a crime. And I watched a movie on this, right? The prison industrial complex is actually a very huge and very profitable industry. A lot of these goods that you see are made in America, they're made by a prisoner. They're made with prison labor. And it got me thinking. There is no incentive to fix this because it's essentially new slavery. But remember, they're prisoners, so we don't care about them. Remember, they're bad people.
Indeed.
That's why do you think Americans and they condition the public to treat prisons like as a means of punishment, not rehabilitation. And as a result, no one bats an eye. And so you can get all these prisoners to work in shit working conditions for pennies on the dollar, making things like a lot of the things that you see in stores, like manufactured goods, are made by prisoners here in America. They're not made in China, right? So the whole bringing back shit overseas is bullshit, because working conditions are shit for poor people everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's one reason why I didn't like Rubio at all. Because I know a few conservative people who are like, we'll take Rubio over Trump. But I was like, I can't take. The reason I would never go for Rubio is because he took a lot of money from a lot of private prisons. Those are the worst offenders of what you're talking about, I'm gonna bet.
Yep.
So
it's like,
I mean, that's one thing that that actually ties into some of the black community's problems with the whole drug war problem, because what fills these prisons, victims of the drug war. So
you have the CIA was it putting cocaine into black communities in the 70s because you could, then you quickly schedule it. I don't know if the scheduling happened before or after, I can't remember, but you schedule it, you put it in the communities, and then you basically
profit off new American slavery. I mean, it is a really ingenious system, to be fair, but I mean, it's highly unethical. And then however, there is a hope spot here, and I never thought I'd really be saying this. Well, I thought I would be saying this, but automation may actually prove to be a way to end that system. Why have prisoners when you can have robots? You don't have to pay robots. Yeah, so, and you don't have to worry about their working conditions. You can work them 24/7.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing, right? Is people love to shit on automation, like, oh, robots taking my jobs, and it's like, nah, yeah, probably.
Well, the thing is, who's going to maintain the robots? Who's going to make the robots?
You can have okay, so about that system.
Well, what I'm saying is, people who worry about jobs, about losing jobs. I'm just going to say, look, the jobs are going to change. They're not necessarily going to be lost.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Is automation's gonna come in really fast. Like, probably no one's ever right on predictions. So I would say 20 years. Most blue collar labor is gone. However, you still need trades, right? If I was a politician, right, I would just come out and say, yeah, no, we're not bringing these jobs back. I'll be real honest with you. But what we are going to do, we're going to open up a bunch of trade schools. We're going to give subsidies to STEM to people pursuing STEM degrees. So this is something, and so it's also like the thing about universal basic income, which I find to be very interesting, is that's I'm very reticent about supporting it, because it could just be it could be overhyped like communism was. But, I think that's kind of the only way you're going to have to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to support any type of major society, because there simply won't be enough labor for it. See, because the thing is about robots and you replacing blue collar jobs. Blue collar jobs are by far the most common. It's menial labor, right? Anyone can do it. It's unskilled. Well, there will be new jobs, but they're going to have a far higher educational requirement to get them. So I predicted the next 10 years there's going to be a lot of societal unrest about them in before Butlerian jihad. But
Hello.
Casey, there you are.
Do I sound okay?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're a lot better now.
In the advent,
yeah.
in the advent though of robotic takeover of the economy, I probably switch my political alignments a bit here and there because I'd agree with you that that universal basic income or some form of providing people with some form of basic money because it's not even worth
you're going to have to.
to pay them to do things is kind of one of the few ways we can keep our economy going with mass automation.
It's literally
what are the truck drivers going to do when the self-driving truck comes along?
Yep, I brought that up. It's like that's the thing is you like that's also when I think is this is one thing that also kind of bothers me about people, mostly conservatives, because by their very nature, conservatives are against change. They're about tradition, they're against progress. That's just the nature of what they are. Is they say, oh, universal basic income will never work, and it's like, well, you don't know if you don't try it, right?
Well, even Hayek, conservative thinker, he never said that, a social safety net wasn't a he never said he was never against it. In fact, he actually was for it in some cases.
Right.
So
this is because and the reason I brought this up because I read this on the news today about Finland doing a little test run of universal basic income, and I'm like, you don't know, you won't know if it won't work if you don't try it. You got to try it, so you might as well. What better than the Nordic countries? They're actually they're as a society are ready to do that. Because America really is a clusterfuck of everything.
Yeah.
It's the country that's sideways. Nothing makes sense. There is no form of hegemony in this country. Not hegemony.
Homogeneous.
We're not homogenous at all. And it's so unifying around anything just what?
Yeah. Well, that's one reason why, like we kind of, to circle back even all the way to our thing, it's one reason why movements like, Black Lives Matter and, feminism and some of this stuff, and even, and then on the other side, things like the alt-right and the Tea Party, well, Tea Party kind of fell in line, but like things like the alt-right and all these movements, there's a reason why these things aren't helpful. It's because they are splitting people apart. And we can't play the game of identity politics at the end of the day because, we have to rally around, we have to unite around something. And you can't just keep calling out people's differences at the end of the day. But one thing I do want to talk about, well, here, Elliot, you go ahead and then I'm going to switch topics briefly.
Well, how do I put this? I feel like a lot of the racial divisions are merely a red herring. It's more of a division about see, that's the thing, right? People are too caught up or too mired in all this cultural clusterfuck, this miasma of outrage, of cultural outrage at what amounts to really nothing. And they're like, oh, it's all racism and stuff. I'm like, no. What people fail to realize is that it's actually class-based, right?
George Carlin once said, you guys don't realize. Well, I don't remember the exact quote, but he's like, it's the goal of any rich in the society, keep the lower and middle classes fighting amongst each other, so they can run off with all the fucking money.
Precisely, it's about it's not that's one thing I have to note. Yeah, there's racism, but it's really classism, right? And you have poor dumb rednecks over here saying, "Oh, the Mexicans took my job," but they're just as poor as you are.
Well, the thing is, what jobs do the Mexicans take anyway? They take jobs that are traditionally done by black people.
They're done by black. Exactly. It's what do you You're not losing anything, and that's the thing. It's literally not about race. Race is a red herring. It's class based. They keep you fighting amongst yourselves, so you don't wise up and realize two things: one, democracy is a shitty system, and two, capitalism dicks you in the ass. And
it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we aren't a pure democracy.
Well, but are there any viable alternatives? Because so far there aren't any working ones that we've found.
Anarcho-capitalism.
No, we're not.
No. Anarcho-communism.
No.
Or
no.
When you try to save
anarcho-egoism, Casey.
Anarcho-egoism literally The only thing, the only property that is yours is that which you can actually defend. Otherwise, it is you don't deserve it.
What you
The rule of nature. No, that's an actual school of thought. Anarcho-egoism. Max Stirner.
Oh
Yep.
my god.
That which you cannot fight for is not yours.
Exactly.
Wow, that's an interesting line of thought.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
anyways,
okay, well, hold on.
nature.
back to the
The point I wanted to bring up, though, because I don't want to go on too much longer, and I'm going to get Casey and James in on this a little more. Sorry, Elliot, but you've been talking a while. We need to get the other guys in, but like we talked a little bit about this on the way down, but I want to just briefly talk about education at the end here, because like I keep saying, because I keep watching the news about education, and all the schools that are pandering to a lot of the SJW, to the feminists, to the Black Lives Matter, to the the transgender stuff. A lot of the schools that are, pandering to this stuff, and like for instance, I forget which college it was, but it was like, I think was it Cornell? No, it wasn't. I don't know if it's Cornell or not, but there's a big college that literally said, we're gonna drop our math requirement and put in a diversity requirement. And Casey and James and myself, or at least
I wanted to commit ritualistic suicide.
Yes, we wanted to.
I had about a conniption fit. I had a conniption fit once I heard that.
Yeah, Casey was convulsing in the seat next to me.
There's
I almost had to stop. I almost had to stop the car and perform the Heimlich maneuver. He was choking on his own tears. It was, but the thing is the reason I mention this is because I think, for in our lifetime, maybe not very soon, but like 30, 40 years down the line, if the colleges continue to do this, I literally think at some point, it'll literally split into two kinds of colleges: STEM college and social colleges. Because any college that wants to actually be successful and have smart people and educate people to be productive in the society is literally just gonna delete their social studies departments, and then colleges that don't give a fuck are just gonna delete everything but the social studies departments. So Casey, James, I'll start with Casey. So Casey, do you think that's gonna happen, or what do you see happening, at least with education in the long term future?
I'll see. Well, shit. I could start a lot of places.
We'll pick one.
Well, hold up.
Oh, here, James. Here, go off with James. James, what do you think?
This is something that I cannot predict, but let's see. Well, the schools, they're operating off of a few incentives. You got the financial ones from keeping the students. You want good PR, and a lot of this, I assume, can come off of trying to get better PR. They want to attract a certain group of people, get more of their revenue from those people. So sure, it's a possibility that some schools will specialize more so. That's already kind of the case. There are liberal arts colleges, and there are STEM. There are more engineering related schools, but I wouldn't see this happening in a lot of the really large schools, the specialization, because there are schools that have their engineering and all those other departments alongside all of their humanities departments as well. And I don't see this happening to a big school. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, the reason
why would they?
To throw in an example, Mizzou, there was an interim president that basically wrote a letter to their whole college and said, we're expecting an unpredicted budgetary loss of $31 million or something like that, and they think it's literally because no one's enrolling in the class
because of that PR clusterfuck that happened in 2014, that no one wants to go to that college anymore.
Well, the funny thing is the one good thing that Milo is doing is when he goes to these colleges is making these kids just freak the fuck out. It's the one good. It's the best thing that he's doing because I watched he did a talk, and he literally did a section of a talk about Catholics are always right, and I was like, oh no. Oh no. And I listened to the whole thing, and I was like, okay, red herring, false equivalency, just a straight up lie. He even implied at one point that the Dark Ages never happened.
What?
He said, you may hear about this thing called the Dark Ages, but it's really not that old. It's not that bad. And I'm thinking, okay, The one thing I can give the Catholic Church credit for is they saved the teachings of the Greeks and the Arabs. But no, that happened, and the Catholics, they invented some of the best ideas for torture that have ever been invented. So good, that's something you guys came up with. I don't know. But back to what I was saying. The reason he's good is because he goes around triggering people. But like everywhere he's gone and triggered a whole bunch of people, turn into PR nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
Well, among the normal people who go to these schools, among the people who go, like the average person who goes to these schools, they even lament a lot of like the crazy social justice people. Like it's kind of unnecessary that like anybody can just go out and protest. Anybody will protest about anything. It's just kind of like people are a bit out there, but you know they kind of try to get by. But anyways, I have to be up really early, so I will have to leave now.
All right, we'll send you off, and then we'll wrap it up soon after you leave.
Okay.
All right, see you, man.
Well, see ya.
Lad.
But yeah, Elliot, what do you think about that idea of at least there being a division between certain types of colleges, something like that, universities?
Main state colleges won't be able to pull that bullshit because a lot of people want to go to get STEM degrees. They're not going to be doing I predict colleges as a whole are going to be shifting towards STEM. There isn't going to be a division because what's the point? Like there's literally no point to that. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. But I feel like as a whole, colleges are shifting more towards STEM because, glorious 2008
makes money.
No, glorious 2008. That was the year that you can be anything you want died. That was the year that dream died, was shot in the back of the head, doused in gasoline, and set alight. That was the year that dream died. And you have a bunch of people going to get STEM degrees now, and that's because that's the place where people go to make money. So
it actually reminds me of something that I once talked to someone about, because I was talking to someone one long time about, because Bellarmine had a few, they were in some financial straits for a little while. No one really needs to know how I actually saw some of the numbers, but no one needs to know how I saw those, but I saw some of the numbers, and I talked with someone, and he literally said to me, "Is like, look, you know how we could make this school actually really, how we could make to not to borrow a phrase, make Bellarmine great again, quote unquote, because they're having some financial issues." Well, he said, "Well, one, stop putting the amount of money they do, and they put a stupid amount of money into things like football and basketball and the sports."
Yeah.
You don't need to put as much money as they do into that kind of crap.
I think I've touched upon this once before in our conversations, and this is not just Bellarmine. It's state schools around the whole damn country. We throw there's an infographic on it. Someday I might pull it up because I've seen it, but it shows highest paid state employee by state. And over 30 of the states, it was a coach of some sort, basketball or football, highest paid state employees. And I'm looking at this shit, and I'm going, holy fuck. Most of your football programs don't even break even. Let's be honest about it. Only the top 10 actually break even. Second of all, if it doesn't really generate that much money, there's no real point. If anything, we should be taking that money and using it to strategically acquire teachers from top schools. For example, UW, we should be saying, okay, we're going to go on par with Harvard, and we'll say, okay, Harvard teachers in STEM stuff, we'll pay you $200,000 to go teach here. And that's a good investment because you build quality to the name of your school. More people go to your school. Quality people go to your school, and if quality people go to your school, you get more donations in the future, and overall, it's a better thing.
Well, what I was saying, just to bring up our specific example, you could do this with state schools too. Although colleges would be a little different because you'd focus more on STEM stuff. But when you get to high schools, don't throw a crap load of money at the sports. The guy I was talking to says, if you throw a crap load of money at music, and not necessarily arts, but especially music and some of the clubs, more educational clubs and stuff like that. He once said, any bum can go out and watch his kid play football, but it's people with PhDs that send their kids to schools with good music programs. So, like he said, and I mean, granted, that is an overgeneralization, but the point is when you don't need to put a whole lot of money in the sports programs. They'll do well on their own if you need them to. But where you need to sink the money is in educational clubs, music, and the school itself, and improving infrastructure.
Education, infrastructure, and research.
Yeah.
That's what you need to
Well,
progress and make developments.
Well, that's how AMD got itself out of the shitter, and I'm now up 400%.
Nice.
Damn.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it was a pretty that's like we went on a massive tangent there, but I did want to throw in that little economics quip. This was kind of just a spur of the moment chat, but I mean, it was pretty good. I think we covered some good stuff. You think that, Elliot?
Yeah, I can concur.
Yeah. And I finally found something that you and I might actually disagree a little bit on, but you know what? We can definitely figure some stuff out.
That. What do
Huh?
we disagree
Oh, we the cultural problems in some of the communities. We have different views on it. I think at the end of the day, we would agree that the cultural problems are there. We just have a different idea of how to approach them.
I see.
Something like that. All right, but we'll leave that to another one. So until next time.